Welcome in to episode 12 of our Let's Play Humankind series featuring a Commons Quarter strategy, lovingly titled Commonly Uncommon, due to the fact that I think the Commons Quarters are very rare to build and can count on one hand the number of times I've built them outside of this particular playthrough over multiple years of gameplay in this game. Very excited to do today's episode. We are moving up to the medieval era. We say goodbye to the Goths and to the classical era, and we move up to the medieval era. The medieval era is a crucial cross point between early game Humankind to mid game Humankind, and a lot of big things typically occur in the medieval era. We will be doing most of those things, hopefully, in today's episode as we walk through our first few turns in this era. Now, if you want to know how we got here, in the description below, there is a link to episode 1 of this series. If you missed any of the turns leading up to this, any of the episodes, we're on turn 68, about to move into the medieval era. If you missed any of that, please feel free to catch up on the rest of the series. We'd love to have you watching along with us. With that, let's jump into the episode, and our first thing that we need to do is figure out just exactly which culture we'll be playing in the medieval era. Here we are, of course, back in our capital city of Ashur. Ashur is a beautiful city, a bustling city. We have tumuluses far and wide. We have wonders. We have at least two, right? We have the Pyramid of the Sun over here, up in the north, I believe. We've got the Hanging Gardens of Babylon also in this city. The city is looking lovely. 24 strong currently, and building some very potent infrastructures to lead us into the next era. One of the things that typically happens is, especially if you're focusing on districts, which a Commons Quarter strategy kind of requires you to do, is you will fall behind in your infrastructure builds. This is okay, but when you reach that point where you have some pretty critical infrastructures that you need to build, you got to make sure you get them in at some point. For example, the watermill, 38 industry, and our artificial reservoirs, 38 food. Obviously, the food is going to be huge because we can see we're only at an excess of 3 food per, so we're barely growing, and when we grow, we will then reach that yin-yang point where we start losing population every time we grow, and then back and forth across the border. We also have exceeded population cap. We talked about the reason why this might be true also, because we've been building tumuluses. Tumuluses do not increase your population cap like other districts do. The Commons Quarter and other Commons Quarter related types of buildings don't do that, and so that becomes problematic with the Commons Quarter strategy. You can see all of these potential pitfalls of the Commons Quarter strategy, but we're also doing incredibly well. We have a massive lead. To be leading by this much in the classical era feels really, really good against Humankind level AI. It really feels like we're doing quite well. So the Commons Quarter strategy appears to be doing its thing. How much of that is an artifact of a really nice spawn? I don't know. Maybe we had a really nice spawn. We've got a lot of good resources we were able to take over. Our land claims have gone relatively successful. Again, you could argue what variable caused the success, but I think we've got, lots of things going for us. A couple other things to catch up on. Remember, we're going to put in our first city on the New World and then make a bunch of claims and try to make our stake like a solid footprint on the New World before anyone else can really get there. But we need to move up and take the feudalism technology first in order to get to colony model, which makes it so that when you make a city, all of the infrastructures from the previous era are already built. It is amazingly powerful to do that, so we want to make sure that we get that down. We're also burning this city down. We took it over at the very end of the last episode. So we're going to burn this city down. It's actually being burnt down right now. And then we'll just claim the territory at some later point. Probably, I think what's going to happen is this city here may become our last city on our original continent. I don't think Gothiscanza will be able to take all of this. I think we need another city. So we're going to end up with a 4th city up here. But I don't think it's going to be this one. It could be. But right now, we need to put in another city, and we want that at a reduced cost. And so if we take over a city after that, that would be more beneficial to us from an efficiency standpoint in using our influence. So that is our current line of thinking. We are basically ready to move up. I don't think we have anything left to do. If we check our stars, we can see that we have gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 3rd tier stars. We've got plenty of other stars at 2 levels. We got a couple stars here. We didn't get any merchant stars. We just hasn't been making enough gold for that. It is actually very challenging to get merchant stars if you are not sole focusing on making money in your empire. So merchant stars is oftentimes difficult to snag. The same thing is true of aesthete stars. The value of these stars, or the numbers you have to hit to get them, is actually quite high in your empire. So if you're running kind of a more balanced approach, or if you're running a more science-based run, which typically I tend to do, then you end up usually kind of falling behind in these particular stars. You'll pick up a couple along the way, and our money will start to grow here in a little bit, but that's something that we're okay with that because we've gained other things, right? Obviously, we could have grabbed another militarist star if we really wanted to. Again, we're way ahead in fame, so we really don't need to do that. And that brings us to the move up, because this is when we're going to do our move up. If you go through all of the cultures in the medieval era, there are only 3, as I mentioned at the end of the last episode, that have commons quarter implications. The Bulgarians are the first of those. They are a diplomat culture, which is interesting. Not many of the diplomat cultures are particularly strong. The Bulgarians are kind of a middling one, in my opinion. So, Victor's Honor, +5 leverage against the defeated empire in a battle won without losing units. This is a very specific, very so-so trait. I mean, you get this for the rest of the game, but 5 leverage is a really small amount in the scheme of things, and you have to win a battle without losing units. So many things have to happen just to get 5 leverage. You have to be at war, or at least in skirmishes. You have to be fighting battles, and you cannot lose units in those battles. And it's not useful against free peoples, it's only useful against other players. So you end up, this seems very weak to me. Even if it was 10 leverage, I still think it would feel weak to me. Leverage is very useful in war scenarios, and you can certainly do things with it, but this feels very weak in my opinion. The Bagaturi, I think, are a very potent unit because they're ranged horse, so you get some really great movement out of it. And you have the ransack bonus as well, so you would keep kind of the ransack theme going if you were to pick the Bulgarians here. And the Kanaz library is not a bad district to have. It's got faith, science, and influence. And the influence is when leverage is collected from an empire. So every time you collect leverage intel on an empire, you get 6 influence. So if you stack a lot of these libraries around, you could end up boosting your influence production by quite a bit if you have lots of diplomats going out, lots of envoys going out and collecting those leverages, and if you're generating lots of them, right? So there's a couple key things that have to happen to make the influence part of this successful, but it makes going for that diplomatic type stuff, going for those leverages, very valuable potentially, right? You also get +1 stability per territory following your state religion. This could be really huge. You could boost up, if you have stability problems, you could boost that up really fast if you were pushing religion alongside of your game. If your religion was part of your game plan and you're pushing religion pretty hard, you could boost up your stability pretty good. The other thing this does is it gives you +2 turns before being converted by another's religion on territory count. So I don't know exactly what the language on that works out to be, but it keeps you from being converted to another religion as fast, right? So it slows down religious spread essentially. And then it's a commons quarter. Counts as a commons quarter. Remember, it's very specific. It is not a commons quarter. It counts as a commons quarter for bonus purposes. It does not function as a commons quarter, right? Overall, the Kanaz library is definitely valuable. There's a lot of value there. You've got faith, science, influence, and stability, and some extra religious bonus on a non-religious district, which is a little bit frustrating. If it was a religious district, I think that would kind of turn it to something really great, but middling at best, I think, for the Bulgarians. The other one we have is the Taino. Now, the Taino, on the exact opposite spectrum of things, they are an agrarian culture. Zemis worship, +3 food per number of territories in your sphere of influence on all cities. That's potentially very potent and could become more potent as the game goes on. As your sphere of influence, your cultural spread kind of goes out to, and if you keep it high, +3 food per number of territories in your sphere of influence on all of your cities is a really nice potential food bonus. Now, when you first start with them, that's probably going to be minimal because you're probably going to have just your territories under your sphere of influence at this point in the game, typically speaking, maybe a couple of others. But that's still quite a few territories. You're still looking at some pretty serious food gains here. And our Commons Quarter bonus, +2 food on Commons Quarter. Now, this is not a huge number. +2 is like, yeah, okay, +2. But we have quite a few Commons Quarters down. Now, remember, our Danus, our Tumuluses, they count as Commons Quarters for bonus purposes. This is one of those instances where, yes, it does apply to them. They count as Commons Quarters. Again, they don't function as them, but this applies. +2 food on Commons Quarter does apply to them. So we get +2 food on all of the Commons Quarters that we put in already, which is essentially at minimum 2 per territory, right? We've got 2 per territory, and that's going to go up because we're going to put in a regular Commons Quarter. So we're looking at least in any given territory, 6 food that we're going to gain per territory. And again, that will go up as we go. Not a huge number, but a beneficial number, and makes our Commons Quarters, placing them, make even more sense and make them even better. The Beira Hunters, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, also a really decent unit. The biggest thing with them is they have indirect fire, right? The unit can attack units without a clear line of sight. This is very potent. The same thing is true of the English longbowmen. That's why I think the longbowmen are one of the best units in the medieval era. The indirect fire is a very potent thing. Once you research crossbowmen, if you upgrade your units to crossbowmen, you lose this indirect fire capability that your archers have. The longbowmen from England, the Beira Hunters here, have indirect fire. It is very potent and almost battle-changing scenario to be able to keep indirect fire for as long as you can in some of these fights. Obviously, your archers can't outclass crossbowmen from a damage standpoint, but if you get these units that are unique units in this era, you definitely can take that in a really cool way. Also, canoe fighters is kind of a cool thing too. The unit receives no penalties from rivers, so that's actually pretty nice, especially on a map that's full of rivers like ours is. And most people like to play with rivers, I feel like, at least I do anyway. So canoe fighters is actually pretty cool. So I like their unique unit as well. The Batey is kind of where it falls kind of flat, to be honest. It's a very, very simple emblematic district. +10 stability, not bad. +10 stability, we'll take it, right? +10 influence on settled city. Those two things go together, right? A +10 stability hopefully will help you get to a settled city, and then you're getting 10 influence on a settled city. 10 influence is nothing to scoff at this point in the game, but the long-term value, questionable. And then they count as a Commons Quarter. Very simple. If you compare it to the Knaz Library, which is very complex and has benefits across the board, this one only benefits your stability and your influence, and it's just a set number. There's no added bonus as you go throughout, and there's actually even a stipulation on the influence gain. So the Batey is, again, 10 influence I think is going to be very valuable, and I think for the time being, the stability might be nice, but again, just counts as a Commons Quarter, doesn't act as a Commons Quarter, but it's going to get the +2 food as well, and so at least you're gaining some things from it. So the Taino, very good up front. The emblematic district, maybe so-so. The last one for Commons Quarter strategy in the medieval era is the Aztecs. You have Huitzilopochtla's Glory, +2 land movement speed on unit, and -20 unit industry cost. This lasts the whole game. That is not bad at all. If you are inclinated towards war or exploration for that matter, because of the bonuses here, this will fund you for a long time. The movement speed will get you places fast, -20%. That stacks with other percentage reductions that you might be applying, and so you could crank out very quickly a large army if you needed to. They are a militarist, right? So they want to go to war, very similar to our Goths that we were just playing. And the Jaguar Warriors definitely have a pretty decent, it's a pretty decent unit. 35 strength, not bad. And then Fervor is pretty good because they have no combat strength penalty from damage. It's actually pretty potent in the game of Humankind. So the Jaguar Warriors definitely useful emblematic unit as well. And then you get access to the sacrificial altar. So this is where you get a little bonus from the Aztecs over some of the other cultures that you might choose from a Commons Quarter perspective. Number one, counts as a Commons Quarter. Number two, it's a religious district. So you get the bonuses not only of the Commons Quarter that all your Commons Quarters are getting, you also get the bonuses that your religious districts get. And that stacks very nicely, as we saw with the Tumulus, right? The Tumulus had the same thing. It was a religious district that also was counted as a Commons Quarter. And so you get the religious district bonuses and you get the Commons Quarter bonuses. It's a pretty nice combination to have, actually. It's probably one of the most potent combinations that are like, obviously, if you could get a Chthon, for example, which counts as like it's like a market makers and food. I can't remember. It counts as like 3 different quarters. Like that's really great because exploits and adjacencies and everything are crazy for stuff like that. For this though, you get a lot of great bonuses because it counts as 2 different types of districts, both which receive substantial amounts of bonuses throughout the game depending on what you choose, and so that could be very beneficial. It also gets you a base +5 faith, 10 stability. So again, you start to look at the Taino and the Batey, and you're like, well, what is the Batey getting me? 10 stability and 10 influence, but only on settled city. Whereas, if you look at the Aztecs, if you're looking at +5 faith, you're getting the 10 stability anyway, and you get +2 influence per adjacent district. So you actually have control over that, right? You got to build the districts out. So I'd argue that the influence is probably better for the Taino in the long run if you get into settled city territory, but you get there's a lot of going for the sacrificial altar. It also unlocks sacrifice population action on the city. Such sacrifice will apply celebrating status for several turns, so you can actually improve your stability even further, I believe, through that. I don't know. That's a controversial one. I've never actually seen it in action before. I don't know how many population you have to sacrifice in order to get the celebratory status. I'm not sure how valuable that is. I would probably discount this as not valuable, but the sacrificial altar, because of the religious and Commons Quarter duplicate, is pretty nice. Now, we are not currently going to war. In fact, we're making a lot of peace. If you were executing the Commons Quarter strategy and using the Romans, and you'd gone the Romans route instead of the Goths, I think the Aztecs are the clear and obvious choice here, because you're probably still pushing war to some degree. And this, along with the sacrificial altar and the Jaguar warriors, I think would be a really great play. So you could continue to push war pretty heavily in that way. So if you were going Romans, I'd go into Aztecs. I am going to go into the Taino. I can't pass this up. Zemus worship is so good for food generation. I might not even have to think about food hardly at all anymore for a substantial chunk of the game. And as you can see from our capital city, we were actually struggling on food. We're building in some infrastructures that will take care of that, right? But the hope is we can focus more on Commons Quarters because we don't have to focus on food. And in fact, our Commons Quarters will actually help us with food. So the Taino is going to be the direction that we choose. We're going to go into our agrarian, our food-based culture. There we go. We will adopt them. We'll take all the food and we will go and build some Bateys. We have lots of things to do here in the medieval era. Let's watch as we move up and make a rather large transition into the medieval era.
Wisdom and technical innovation from earlier eras bring humankind new knowledge, and we immediately use it to find new ways to kill each other off. Greater empires build more powerful armies, but brute strength may be defeated by superior innovations. It is brains versus brawn, with ever richer cities as tempting spoils for the victor. It must be noted that the Taino found brilliant ways to live from the oceans and a remarkably fun way to settle disputes.
How'd they settle disputes? Narrator, you can't leave us hanging like that! Oh, man! Unbelievable! Alright, we have reached the new era. We, of course, will benefit the most from our agrarian stars. We should be able to push those pretty hard as we're getting some really potent artificial reservoirs in across all of our cities. Actually are building those, right? So here we go. Craftsmanship has been researched. That was actually conveniently, I believe, the final tech in the last era. So we actually got perfectly executed a move from craftsmanship, and now we'll move into our next tech in the era. So I think that worked out really smoothly for us. Canadian Moose has forgiven heresy. Canadian Moose's religion is spreading very, very fast. Icarus's religion is also now spreading to us as well. We're successful. And same turn, Plosif has moved up as well. So Plosif, I believe, was sitting in second place. So we will move up at the same exact time. Excellent. Plosif goes to the Norsemen, our ally to the north of us, and we will both be taking the medieval era by storm as we seek stars ahead of each other. We gained population in a couple of our cities. That's always good for our agrarian stars. That looks good. Let's take a look at this religion lens. 82 out of 110. I think we're still growing, but we're getting heresy forgiven all over the place.
So will this independent people be an ally or an enemy? A barrier or a blessing? Their future may not be in their hands.
I'm very confused because I do not see Icarus's religion anywhere on my map. And yet he forgave heresy on one of my places, apparently. I don't know why that would be. Now, obviously, for Seamoose's religion has hold of my island territory over here. And so that makes sense, but I'm not seeing where another religion is. Obviously, I see Plosif's religion has spread down into my land. We're kind of pushing back on that right now. Burley has a pretty good hold on his own land. Oh, look at this placement. Look at that. A great temple placed right at the border by Plosif. Wow, Plosif attempting to push his religion into Burley's land, probably using that also to generate grievances for the war. And you can see the war has turned heavily in Plosif's favor. Plosif has now moved up and will have access to better techs. Burley, if he cannot find peace soon, is going to be in a world of trouble as Plosif has now taken Napata, and Plosif probably could make moves on Asan Devit as well, Devat, and Burley's in a bit of trouble. Down to just 2 cities, a decent amount of territory. Obviously, we cost Burley 3. We burned 3 of his territories down over here that he claimed. We burned another one down here. It hurts a lot to have your territories burnt down because that's influence you already spent. So the war heavily turning in the favor of Plosif. And you can see that Burley now has cranked out a lot of units, though. So Plosif's army is heavily damaged, but they have taken the city. And now it looks like Burley actually now has the advantage, which is intriguing because we saw over the last couple turns, the advantage army-wise was definitely going in Plosif's favor. Burley now has armies kind of strewn about, and there's quite a few 4 stacks and 3 stacks. So this war looking to play out probably over the long term. I feel like it's going to be like a decent war. There's going to be a lot of back and forth in that. I have no idea. Obviously, they are still at war. We can't tell where the war score or the war support is for that. It'd be kind of cool if there was a function where you could do some sort of, reconnaissance or spying to find out how the war is going. But this looks like it's going to be a drop-down fight. We've got a 4-stack next to the capital of Plosif, and then multiple units now coming out for Burley across the board. But Burley has lost one of his cities and appears to be kind of hemmed in a little bit, but it definitely has the units to punch through. There's going to be a lot of fighting going on up there, I feel like. That's great for us. We'll take that any day. They're distracted by each other and will pay no attention to us, which we do not mind in the least bit. All right, let's jump down to our armies. This boat is actually just heading back in this direction, so we'll keep him going that way. Remember, he got stuck. There is no through path here for boats, which is unfortunate, so we'll have to wait to explore that area. This army, which is our current largest army, has just burnt down that city, right? So we now basically want to go continue waging war on the different free peoples, right? So I think that we just start moving towards our next target. Now, Gorgum, I think, is going to be our next city, even though Pompelo is the better of the cities, arguably. They already have a district down, and they have 4 population. But I don't really want this city. I mean, this could be our city, I guess. I'm looking at a coastal city over here with faster access to the coast, because we don't really have one of those over here. I feel like that would be more beneficial for us. And going a little further away from Gothiscansta, just getting this one, I think, feels like the right play. So I think we want to go, let's go fight Pompelo, probably, and we'll make that kind of our next, that'll be our next target. Again, you can see our ransack bonuses coming through, 62 gold, 28 science, because of the cultures that we have chosen leading up to this. And so we will move all of our armies in this direction. I'm not going to make any other claims currently, because both these claims I want to make, but they're both kind of expensive claims right now, right? Again, we're making a lot of influence, and we'll continue to make a lot of influence, but definitely something to think about as we head in that direction. But I think we'll make them after we get our city in over here. We'll keep an eye if Plosif decides to go and do some aggressive stuff or whatever we can. He seems rather busy right now, so I'm not terribly worried about it at this particular point. This guy's hanging out. He's just waiting. This guy is hoping that he can see somebody. Yes. Just wants to meet one of the last two players. I believe we have Nox and Gaiden are our last two players that we have not met. We already know that Gaiden is up here because of coloring. We just haven't been able to catch him, a unit or anything like that. We have another envoy that is making their way here. Let's go ahead and send them probably to this. And then we have a tenant, possibly. Land and freedom. The Empire's a vast and glorious land. Who do the lands belong to, though? Land rights now available to us. And so we have a large question to answer now. Land rights is a really big civic because it really flips the game on its head in a bunch of different ways. You can get plus 10 food per number of attached territories in all cities, which is a really nice boon to your food. We're not going to have like a lot of trouble food-wise, I don't think, here in the next little bit. But that will be good, I think, in the long run. We can also do inherited land, which pushes us all the way on this side of the axis. And it allows you to use money instead of influence to claim, attach, and merge territories. The big point to make here when you're thinking about choosing inherited land is that the money cost to claim, attach, and merge territories is significantly lower than the influence cost. It doesn't state this here, so if you've never played around with inherited land before, it's not a one-to-one switch. So the influence cost is not going to be the same as the money cost. So if for example, if it costs 100 to put in a claim of influence, if you switch to inherited land and it's money instead of influence that you use to do that, it might cost something like 50. I don't know what the percentages are exactly, but it's pretty substantial, right? So what you have to look at when you're thinking about land rights is how much money are you making per turn and how much influence are you making per turn. Second thing to think about is this. How much stuff do you have to spend influence on, and how much stuff do you have to spend money on? Money can buy you lots of things. Districts, infrastructures, units, trade, right? Influence can get you territories, can get you civics, and can get you wonders. Pretty much. And so you only have a few things to spend it on. So the value of the switch really depends on how you're playing. Now, if you're playing a game that is very money focused, it is very, very, very nice to switch to inherited lands. We will not be switching to inherited lands because I don't think it's worth it. Obviously, we're making 464 influence per turn. Most of our game is centered around influence generation, and so we don't want to mess with that currently. We're just not making enough gold to make that valuable. We have a nice bank of gold. You could think about switching, making a bunch of cheap claims and switching back or something like that. There's always possibilities here. And you could think about this later in the game when you're maybe making more attachments, like expensive high-end attachments, like your 4th, 5th attachment into a city. Might be worth it to make this switch. I usually don't. If I choose not to go after money pretty heavily, I'm not going to switch to inherited land, and I'm just going to kind of go with it at that point. Technology. Here we go. We are obviously going to tech to feudalism because we want colony model as quickly as possible. The next thing also, right, that we could head towards is getting our Beira hunters online. I could be wrong, but I would assume we can upgrade our archers to these, but I'm not sure exactly how all emblematic districts, all emblematic units work. Sometimes they just plain don't work that way. Also gets you access to some of the first stealth units in the game, the prowlers, as well as spies. And so you get some different game mechanics coming at you at this point as well. Another thing to think about, Seafaring Mastery, get access to the cog. If you want to get your units, if you want to get your military built up in the water, the cog is a great start to that. And then Chivalry gets you access to the hamlet, and the hamlet is your population lifesaver. And in this particular game, because we're playing Commons Quarter heavy, I think that the hamlet is going to play a very large role in ensuring that we are able to maintain population control over our cities. So we'll probably go pretty quickly to chivalry, and maybe even before war summons, possibly, as we're kind of headed in that direction. We can also get extra city cap here from theology, and that's never a bad thing. But we'll go straight to feudalism. So in 4 turns, we'll be able to put in our city on the new world. Let's run a quick go around for our cities, make sure that everything is looking good. Food has increased by quite a bit because of the fact that we are the Taino now, and so we have that. Let's make sure all of our cities are on expert policy still. I think I left them all on science anyway, which is, again, pretty much fine by me. And everything is down, so that's good. Artificial reservoirs coming in here. Food has spiked again. We're still a little bit over pop cap. But our expert policy is still in play, and Nineveh is also looking good. We're right about at pop cap here, but everything looking like it's functioning basically the way we want to. 2 last things to check here on this first turn in the era. Number 1, wonders. We have a whole slew of wonders that are now available to us. We will now notice that Burley has indeed claimed the mausoleum at Halicarnassus. That was one of the ones that was still available. Knox has claimed the church of Our Lady Mary of Zion, and so all of the wonders from the previous eras are now claimed up, except for Colosseum. Colosseum's still sitting there. There's some wars that have gone on, so somebody could benefit from this. Burley maybe even at this point, but Burley's already burning quite a bit. He's got a couple wonders, which is more than most of us have. Although, yep, so everyone on my continent has claimed multiple wonders. I've got 2. We've got 2 coming out from Plosif, and then we've got 2 coming out from Burley as well. Looks like Gaiden has also claimed 2. So lots of wonders off the board. But we now have access to the medieval era wonders. Tota G is not a bad wonder at all. Very religion oriented, right? You get plus 10 faith, but the nice thing is you get plus 1 industry per state religion follower. That's going to be city specific, right? But that's 82. We have 82 followers. That's 82 industry. And that number will only go up, right? That's pretty potent for a city. Plus, you're getting additional faith generation and stability, and then you also get those bonuses around there. Plus 20% turns for being converted by another religion. It's a holy site. It's a religious district. Tota G is not bad at all. Plus, that's a lot of production. The Great Mosque of Jenny is arguably the best wonder in the game. And in fact, I'm not even going to say arguably. This wonder is basically broken. What I am going to do is not build this wonder in this game. Every game of Humankind that I've ever played, you always go after Great Mosque of Jenny. It is just too powerful. It gives you plus 10 faith. That's fine. It counts as a holy site and a religious district. That gives it some nice bonuses. Plus 40 stability, some adjacency. Whatever. But if you go down to the bottom, 5% bonus on future fame gains on Empire. That's 5% on every fame you gain for the rest of the game. That adds up. I've done the math before. Typically, that's going to add up to somewhere around the line of like 500, I think, fame over the course of the rest of the game. That doesn't seem like a lot. 500 fame is a lot of fame to gain over the course of the game, right? That's like building 5 wonders, right? You get 100 fame for building a wonder. If you build Great Mosque, not only do you get the 100 fame for the mosque, but you're going to get the 5% gain for the rest of the game. And so if you're going to build Great Mosque, you want to claim it immediately upon moving up into the medieval era. You want to build it as fast as you can, because every star you gain after its completion, you're getting that 5% on, right? So you actually don't want stars in the medieval era until you've built the mosque. Very powerful. The part that actually breaks this is the last part. Unlocks the repeatable constructible Crépissage in the city where the wonder is built. The Crépissage is it's like one of those like projects within the city that you can run. When you run it, it then lasts for, don't quote me on any of this because I actually have not run Crépissage myself. I've watched it be run and I've heard about it. Basically, you run Crépissage, it then gives you 10 or 15 turns of a status, and that status gives you bonus to fame. I think it's like 15% or something that stacks with your 20. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it basically is ridiculous because what you can do is you can run that project on a consistent basis to make sure you have that status on that city, and then all of your fame gains are increased by that number, right? And you can compound that by building more wonders in that city, so that that city is then building wonders that are worth big chunks of fame, 100 fame, right? And then you're bonusing that by your 5% that you get from having the mosque. Then you bonus that by the crepusage number. It is ridiculous. And if I misspoke on how crepusage works, please in the comments let everyone know exactly how it works. But crepusage essentially makes this wonder completely broken, in my opinion. So what I'm going to do is I will not pick it in this game. We will see if the Commons Quarter strategy can carry us through without the Great Mosque. We'll let someone else have it and see if they can utilize it to the best of their ability. Great Zimbabwe is another wonder, plus 2% money per number of types, unique types of resources available on Empire. We actually have quite a few unique resources. This actually would give us a nice money boon. So Great Zimbabwe, great for some extra money. Very simple wonder. You have access to unique resources, especially if you're trading a lot. The Great Zimbabwe can get you some substantial percentage based on money. Like if we look up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have access to 13 unique resources. 13 times 2 is what, nearly 30%, the 26 or something like that. Don't trust my math ever. 26%, and that's just what we have now. We get access to more resources, it becomes more powerful. So Great Zimbabwe is very good. Notre Dame can be good if you pair it together with other things. Plus 1 faith for research technology, and plus 10 faith base. And obviously it's a holy site and a religious district. Basically it's a faith generator, right? And it pairs nicely if you have high science. So it's actually something that we could potentially use in this game. Forbidden City, if you're going to war, Forbidden City can be great. You get stability out of it, and you can declare wars easier for the rest of the game. So if you're a war-oriented person, you get plus 25 war support when going to war, which is actually really big. I mean, that's huge. Like, let alone that you could declare wars faster, you get that instant bonus, which is really nice. We'll go to Citadel. I built Citadel before because it looks beautiful, but it was fun to do in our barracks, our garrison strategy. But you get plus 10 faith from adjacent mountains. It does get built on a mountain, which is pretty cool. Units can't actually enter it, which is kind of lame. I thought that it would at least allow units to be on it, but no such luck. But it's very, very helpful. If you need to reveal units, if you have a problem with a bunch of stealth units being in your territory, very, very helpful. Plus your stealth units get extra combat bonuses. So if you're going kind of the stealthy combat route, Citadel can be very powerful. It's also a great defensive building from that capability of it allows you to detect more, right? Which is nice. Angkor Wat is a building that I think is going to be our first claim. Plus 1 food per faith. Now, we're generating faith at a pretty decent clip. Now, I've demonstrated a way to basically get food permanently for the rest of the game using an Angkor Wat to Machu Picchu and throw in, like, Notre Dame in there, and all of a sudden you have one city that will generate all your food for the rest of the game. I don't think I want to take that full route this time. There's wonder combinations that essentially win you the game, and that's one of them. But Angkor Wat is great because it gives you plus 1 food per faith. It's got the adjacency bonuses. It counts as a holy site. It counts as a religious district, so you get all the bonuses of those things. But that plus 1 food per faith is really nice, especially in a city that's generating a lot of faith, like your capital city. So you keep your capital city up and running because it's got a ton of faith built into it, and that will then catapult that a great deal. Again, if you then combo that into like Machu Picchu, you could get some really great gains out of that as well. Now, I don't know if Angkor Wat, the plus 1 food per faith, is city specific, or if you're getting that, if it's plus 1 food per faith, like nationwide. I'm not sure. It's actually a really great question. Because the debate would be, right, is do you claim Angkor Wat and put it in Gotha Skansta? Because Gotha Skansta is getting the plus 5 food and the minus 10 population consumption. So you're getting a lot of food out of Victoria Falls. And so you could combo those together to really put a bunch of food out here, and then you could put something like Machu Picchu in this city to distribute your food out across your empire. Again, I don't actually want to do that strat because we've demonstrated that before in a previous Let's Play series. But that strat is definitely a viable strat of the Angkor Wat into Machu Picchu, so that you're generating a ton of food and then distributing it out across your empire. We'll get to Machu Picchu in the next era. You can see that it's also a really great wonder. So lots of great wonders to choose from. I think I want to start with Angkor Wat, mainly because it's tempting to start with Tota G as well and just take that industry. Like, it's a lot of industry. There's a nice faith generation there. Tota G is very tempting. We're generating a lot of faith, though, and I think our food would just go through the roof. And we're playing an agrarian culture in this particular game. So I want to say if we can establish in our capital a massive food center, I think that would be super helpful. Obviously, Great Zimbabwe is also very nice. It would definitely boost our money. And then Tota G. So you can see in this era, you've got a lot of very good wonders. You've got the best wonder in the game. Then you've got a high production faith generating wonder. You've got a money generating wonder. You've got a food generating wonder. You've got a faith generating wonder if you need to do that. War, right? Citadel is kind of the, also could be useful though. So I think what we'll do is we'll put a claim in on Angkor Wat just so that we have that reserved. I don't think we'll build it necessarily immediately. I think we want to finish off some stuff in our cities. So I think we'll sit there. And the last thing we'll check, which obviously we've gone very slow through all of this, is let's just give a quick look at treaties and trade. That should take us right to where we need to go. We're ready to move. What is this? There's a readout right here? Is there another free people that's going to try to put this claim in? Yikes. If that unit is somewhere around here, I can't really stop them unless I run an army down or build an army. So we kind of need these guys. These guys are going to have to burn that down and hope they can get the burn down. They were going to put a claim in on this territory anyway. Technically, we could just claim the territory and burn the readout down later. That might even be the play, right? So we'll have to watch that pretty carefully. All right, let's actually hit the next turn button. We'll move along. I think I remember to do everything. First turn in an era is always, hey, there's the fight. Beautiful. Uh-oh. Oh, attitude improved. Gaiden feels pleasant about me. Okay, good. I thought that was going to be a negative thing. Possibly. All right. An offer.
Proposition should be
Icarus has sent us an alliance proposal. I'm kind of not taking alliance proposals currently, only because
and yet,
because we want to be cutting off access to the New World. But Icarus is super far away from the New World. I feel like we could probably accept this, right? Icarus is tucked in way back here. I feel like this entrance point is not going to be where he tries to get to the New World anyway. I'm just going to accept this. I think we accept this. We like allies.
You are as just
we'll take it.
as you are wise.
And an arms deal.
Let's make it.
I'll sign it. How about some Diplo cooperation? Wait, how's
as you are wise.
our trade? I don't need to
Let's
trade
make it
this,
so.
right? But I would love like a
We seem to be
science
riding a
exchange,
wave
maybe.
of good cheer. This
Hey, there we go.
proposition should be in all our best interests.
Okay, perfect. That should get us a lot of map access, actually, right? We just discovered a bunch of stuff, and we have now, and then we met, we're gonna have met everybody. Yep, there we go. So that alliance actually was hugely beneficial to us. We probably should have thought of that sooner.
No doubt this
we've had access to do that for quite some
first to
time.
map the continent. Others will be after your boot designs and blister medicines. A new independent people. And who are they? Time will tell if they are helpful, helpless, or history.
So making that alliance unlocked for us.
So will this independent people be an ally or an enemy? A barrier or a blessing? Their future may not be in their hands.
Thank you, Mr. Narrator. Are you going to say that for every one of these free peoples? So that alliance did something really great for us. It unlocked our ability to see everything on the other continent, and we should have thought of this sooner. Icarus has explored the entire other half of the continent. We have explored the other half of the continent, and so we actually completed each other's maps. So we got that 150 gain because we're allied, and we both got it at the same time, right? The other thing it gave us access to, right, is we now can have trade access with everybody, which that means this turn is going to take forever again. But all right, let's see. Is he going to say it again? Oh, wow, thanks. Okay, so let's take a look at the land. Wow. So Gaiden, making some serious moves, has crossed all the way over, and this would appear to be a cross point. However, it's too far It's too far for them to make it with these units, so we don't know yet if they can access the New World from this side. That looks like their most obvious point to cross, but they might need further technology to be able to make that cross. So, interesting. So right now, we've got Canadian Moose spawned all by himself, all over here. He's been kind of flanked by Free Peoples now because there's a large gap in between them. We've got Icarus that probably, I don't know what Icarus has been doing. Icarus started in Corral. Corral would be the capital city of Icarus. And then he's come all the way up here. He's made no other claims. So maybe there was some early war. Icarus only, like, just not a lot of land. And Icarus is now up here as well. Why we allied with him, I don't know. He's been in last place for quite some time. Although Nox is also struggling. But Nox has a little bit more of an established land along the border here. Nox, if the AI was a little smarter, Nox would have done really well with a coastal civ, like coastal cultures here. She's taking over the whole land here, which is kind of nice. Gaiden making some nice moves, claiming up a lot of land. There's a lot of land even in between still that can be claimed. And then we've got wonders kind of all over the place in here as well, right? A lot of wonders got discovered. I should probably just click on some of them. Like Bungle Bungle Range, I think, is really good for
an incredible
right?
natural wonder, or a terrifying vision of a vast hive of human-sized bees.
Yeah, so we would have loved to have Bungle Bungle Range, right? Plus 10 stability on center outpost, plus 3 science on Commons Quarter, plus 5 food on Commons Quarter. Really would have played into our strat very nicely. It's not that it's inaccessible to us, but we'd have to build a city in the middle of this. Like, we'd have to take this over and then build a city in the middle of this with Commons Quarters in it to take advantage of that. Is that a possibility? I mean, we could start investing in them now. 57 investment, just like take them. I don't know.
We could always independent people. And who are they? Time will tell if they are helpful, helpless, or history.
We met all these people. Come on, narrator. Nox like scientific correspondent. You know what? Nox is also way down there. I'll sign it.
Your proposal
I'll sign it.
Good sense.
Let's.
I say yes.
Trade luxuries. I didn't check if she had luxuries, but that's always
closer,
my opening move.
Don't you think?
Papyrus.
Gladly.
That's a nice science.
This bodes very well.
So the question is, we have 143 money. We're about to spend a bunch on trade, possibly. What I want to do is probably look at Gaiden first. Gaiden probably sent us the next. No, Seamoose has sent us an alliance proposal. I'm going to counter that one because Seamoose does have access to the New World from where he is. If he pays me for it, I'll give him access. Currently has access anyway. I haven't attached anything, but
I cannot accept this as is, but a modest contribution might change my mind.
So no problem. We don't mind. Trade is still solid.
This does very
and then Gaiden probably also coming to us with science correspondence for Gaiden as well. You know what? I'm just gonna give the computers. I don't like signing these. I've said that a bunch of times,
dispute the benefit
I really don't. Oh, we got Saffron Obsidian. Trade luxuries, please.
I have
a discussion with you is always fruitful.
Beauty. Thank you, Gaiden. All right. So here's the thing. Coffee, saffron, and obsidian are probably some of the best in the game. I would love to purchase these. Now, these trade routes are going to quickly impact our overall money. So obsidian is our best one here, right? Because we get 7 of them. So it's going to cost us 42 per, and we're just going to pay up front like a ton of gold for the rest of it. But that's going to be huge for us, right? Saffron, again, we get a bunch of food from this. It's going to be very spendy up front. 42 to 80. Again, we're going to go down in our gold per turn, but we're not really focused on that anyway. The benefits are going to be huge from getting that. Now, the question then comes with 1 coffee is going to get us plus 2 food on farmer and 5 stability. We're not going to get any cumulative effect from this because there's only 1 of them. And the cost is going to be relatively heavy, right? 80 to 129. Talking about a 50 maintenance increase just to get access to 2 food per farmer. And so that's where, from a gold perspective, I'm like, yeah, maybe we hold on the coffee, right? Because I don't think that's going to be hugely beneficial for us. Now, I do want to check our trade with Nox as well. Nox has got Papyrus. That's plus 3 science on Administrative Center. She's got 4 of it. We can add that by plus 2 again after that. So a little bit more value. It costs 55 to open up this trade route. We have 80 gold. We could buff our science by a substantial amount by taking this. But yikes, I mean, we're talking about basically producing next to no gold if we do this. The science gains would be pretty nice, and we wouldn't go into the negative. So my thought is, we're not really using our money currently, and we're not at the threat of war. I'm going to do it. And we're going to drop down to 31 gold per turn. We're still making gold, so that's... it's all right. Questionable at best, I would think, yes. But hey, getting that science is going to be huge, I think, right? We just went down to 2 turns. We got a whole turn worth of science from what we've been able to do, right? So let's bring our units down. I don't think we're going to be initiating any combat in this particular get-go. Let's stay outside of their territory just to act like we're not particularly threatening. A unit of Burley's here that's like in our land. I don't love that. Especially if he's headed like over to some of this area. There is papyrus, or there is sage up here. Oh, that would be a reason we should have claimed this. Just to get this sage online. You know what? That's probably worth the cost. I think this guy is actually going to go back and put a claim in over here. I'm going to send this guy back. We're going to claim this land just to get this sage online. Probably should have thought about that when we were there. Also, Chocolate Hills is really good. Burning that down may have been probably questionable at best. When you think about all the benefits potentially of keeping it, might have been worthwhile. We have the influence to probably keep it, but we got rid of it. So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? All right. This guy has a little bit, so let's go grab this. Then we'll go back. We'll grab this curiosity because why not? Snag that. That's the one we're looking for. Although we could use gold at this point, and then we'll just put him right back where he's gonna put the claim in. So we'll just move him around. We want to keep getting curiosities, right? We want to find some of those ocean curiosities. This guy's out and about exploring. Over this way. Jump him onto river so he can head out and keep doing his thing. We also need him for claims at some point, but I think we're fine. All right, Ashur is ready to make its next build. Here's a big thing I want us to think about, and we mentioned this in another episode. We do not have an actual commons quarter on the map yet. So for one, we want to get commons quarters in. For 2, we actually want to build one of each quarter in each city because that unlocks access to a lot of infrastructures that we don't currently have access to. So one thing that I'd like to ensure I've done right around the medieval era, because that's when we have access to each of the different districts now, right? We know we have farmers' quarters in most of our cities. We have makers' quarters in a couple of our cities. We don't have, I believe, we don't have a single market quarter built, and we don't have a single research quarter built. And this will change based on the game you're playing and what you're kind of doing, but we haven't built any of those, right? Sometimes you'll have built lots of research quarters and no, market quarters or no farmers' quarters for whatever reason, right? You want one of each quarter in each of your cities to unlock access to all of the infrastructures that exist within that. Normally, those infrastructures are based on how many research quarters you have, so it's not like they're like insanely valuable, but every once in a while, there's very, very valuable things you could put in your city from an infrastructure standpoint that are locked behind the fact that you have to have that district or quarter in your city before you could actually do it. So that's one thing we want to think about as well. We also want to take a quick look at how much value we can find in any of our infrastructures, because again, we were behind in infrastructure builds. 20 industry from a lumberyard, and that takes 1 turn to put in, so that's pretty potent. Money is also a problem for us. We want to take 77 money per turn if we put in a customs farm. That number is only going to be this big on the capital, but this is a very large and very nice number. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go lumberyard for the 20 industry into the customs farm. And we also want to check out some of our science-based things, right? We don't really need a ton of science, and these aren't getting us a lot. Although this does get us +2 research slots, which is pretty big. And 25 science is not bad at all. So we have a bunch of infrastructures that we still want to build. I'm going to start with that. We also want to think about the theater. We definitely want to think about this. Bringing up our population cap would be really nice. There's a lot of potential here in what we could do. We also want to get our bateys in, so we have to start thinking about that. But I think after we put in some infrastructures, maybe we put in a wonder. I think what we want to do is build a commons quarter and then build one of each quarter. And then we'll put our bateys in after that. The bateys are not something I feel like are like, oh, we got to get these in right away. I don't think we necessarily have to. Although, in our capital city, that's plus 10 influence, which is not bad. So we definitely want to put that in before we put a theater in, that's for sure. So we want to weigh things like that. Oh, fight? Come on! So we have our free peoples. It's all spearmen. Wow, the AI somehow have figured out I've built all cavalry. So we're gonna retreat this. Obviously, we can't win that fight. And we're gonna have to send an army down to deal with this. Actually, we might even want to train a whole separate army. To be honest, we might want to train a whole separate army to come deal with this, because the conundrum being, right, this is all spearmen, and if I send all of my horse units after it, then we're gonna suffer well, maybe not, we might lose people, but it would be a pain. So maybe we want to create like a ground army at this point, maybe even built around our unique unit. So maybe after feudalism, we do jump into war summons really quick, grab some Beira hunters, and then make kind of a ground-based range army. We'll get some melee units in there as well. And then we'll have to come deal with these free peoples. They might even try to put like a city or outpost in here, which actually, to be honest, if they did, we just get to burn it down, which would be fine by me. Now, they have a redoubt right here, right, which would also allow us to burn something down. So we kind of want a 5-stack army to come and deal with this. So we have gold. We're not making gold, but we could buy out a unit. Maybe we do this to end the turn. To end our episode, let's figure out what kind of army we want. Probably we're going to hold on archers until we get the Beiras, so we could use those. Now, we can build a couple swordsmen. I think that's advantageous for us. The swordsmen are not great units anymore, but those are spearmen down there, so I'm not too concerned with it. We could even just go double spearmen, double Beira. I think that's probably the play. So let's, for the sake of getting these guys down to population cap, let's build two. We could just build 2 swordsmen to start. And then we have 1 horse, right? We've got this horseman that can be part of this army. So let's just use the buyout to grab 2 of these right away. That, again, our gold per turn keeps going down because now our maintenance cost has gone up. And then we'll build 2 of the Beira hunters, and then once that army is full, we'll add this to them, and then we'll send them down to deal with these peoples. I know this was the fewest turns we've been through in an episode yet. It doesn't surprise me because move up turns are always big. So I think that this has worked out quite well for us. We have access now to a full map of the other continent. We kind of know what's happening over there. A lot of free peoples on the map. It's crazy how many free peoples have populated here. We did set the map up such there was going to be a lot of open space. The open space gives you more room to start with, but also allows for more free peoples to spawn. What we did find out was that according to any current exploration being done by the folks on the other continent, access to the New World is pretty restricted from that side of things. We can't tell quite yet. There could still be spots around here that have not been explored enough, but currently looks like without 3-masted sails or 3-masted ships, this is the only path for units to be able to reach the New World. So next episode, we're going to get our city in. We'll start cranking through. We'll probably go pretty quickly at that point through the era. We'll get into the medieval. We got to figure out what we're doing with these free peoples, continue to wage some war against free peoples, clean up this land. We'll probably get our other city in as well. I want to get, not only do I want to get this New World city in, I also want to get the city in up here. And actually, you know what? I changed my mind again. You know what we're going to do? We're going to send this unit. This unit is going to go up here. It's going to put this claim in. And then we're going to turn that city, we're going to use influence to turn that into a city. And the reason we're going to do that is because all of these cities, they never build infrastructures, very rarely. The infrastructures are terrible in free people cities normally. And so because we're going to have colony model, we can put this city in with all of the infrastructures pre-built. And that will actually be massively beneficial. And so I think we'll just do that. I think we'll just place this. We'll put the New World city down first. Rather than saving the influence, I think that's just what we're gonna do. We're just gonna overspend the influence. We've got tons of influence to spend at this point, so I feel like we could pull off our 4th city here, our 5th city total. We'll just get that down. The next city we put down on the New World is gonna become problematic because of that, but I think that's definitely gonna be the plan. So there you go. If I can remember all that, that is the plan for the next episode. Thank you all so much for watching this episode. I appreciate you. If you liked the episode, if you enjoy the content, if you're liking the series, hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. You've got notifications turned on so you know when we release these videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.